Right. Happy Monday, everybody. I'm going to go over some of the things on the lesson plans for Monday. Hopefully this will help you out. If you'll turn to page 56 in your spelling book, I'm going to go over the spelling words and just say them. You can say them after me. Isle, arise, Britain, and notice that Britain has a capital B because that's a proper noun. Cappuccino, career, competitor, concentrate, continuously, during, exfoliation, experiment, heroes. Notice that heroes has an E after the O. That's a common misspelling that people leave the E out, so make sure that you notice that. Inoculate, knowledge, later, noble, operations, similar, stretch, and tomorrow. And then your vocabulary words that you'll be copying, just like we did when we were at school, where you'll copy the first 5 words 3 times and the definitions 3 times as well. And then you'll do the next one. So just look at your lesson plans. It should be on there. Balmy, chafe, crevice, depreciate, hoard, infinity, knack, morose, recess, and seethe. Now, you won't be having your test on Thursday, but you do need to study these words anyway because you will be having review quizzes in the future that have some of these words on them. Plus, you just really need to know how to spell these words for when you get into high school, and you also need to know the definitions of these vocabulary words. So just because you're not having a test doesn't mean that we're at recess. All right, if you look at the next thing, take out your Of Places book. And I'd like to go over this poem with you. It's on page 317. So turn to page 317. This poem is The Horse That Would Tire. Now this poem is a riddle. It's a riddle in poetic form. And so as you read the poem, try to figure out what the answer to the riddle is. What is this poem really about? So let's look at it on page 317. A horse would tire. A horse would tire, but I do not tire. A stag would turn, but I still keep my course. A bird must rest, and ashes follow fire. But I excel flame, bird, or deer, or horse. Only the wind do I require for ration. Only the waves beneath my forefoot curled. Eager I run from nation to nation and seek my harbor halfway around the world. All right, so let's think about it. What do you think that poem is about? Who is the actual narrator of that poem? That's the first question to think it through. So what do you think this poem is about? If you said a ship, you're right. This is a poem about a ship. And so how do we know that? Well, let's think about it. The poem says that the object runs from nation to nation and it seeks harbors around the world and it needs the winds and the waves to move. So obviously it's a ship. Those are the hints that they put in the poem. Look at, think it through. Number 2, to what things is the narrator compared? Well, what's he comparing himself to? A horse. He's talking about how a horse would tire and he wouldn't. And he talks about the food that a horse needs, and he doesn't. And so this poem is comparing the ship to a horse or even a stag or a bird. All right, look at number 3. What's the meaning of lines 9 through 12? Well, let's go back and read 9 through 12. Only the wind do I require for ration, only the waves beneath my forefoot curled. So what do they mean? It means that just like a horse requires food to live, this ship requires the wind and the waves to sail. That's what those lines mean. All right, if you'll pick back up your spelling book and turn to the poem that's on your lesson plans, it's called A Flag Goes By. It's on page 83, I think. Well, I think my pages are stuck together. Here they are. It's just opposite of the word of the poem Be True that we memorized. So let's look at this. I've asked you to read it every day. Let's look at it. Hats off. Along the street there comes a blare of bugles, a ruffle of drums, a flash of color beneath the sky. Hats off. The flag is passing by. Blue and crimson and white it shines over the steel-tipped ordered lines. Hats off. The colors before us fly. But more than that, the flag is passing by. Sea fights and land fights, grim and great, fought to make and save the state. Weary marches and sinking ships, cheers of victory on dying lips. Days of plenty and years of peace, march of a strong land's swift increase, equal justice, right and law, stately honor and revered awe. Sign of a nation great and strong toward her people from foreign wrong. Pride and glory and honor all live in the colors to stand or fall. Hats off. Along the street there comes a blare of bugles, a ruffle of drums, and loyal hearts are beating high. Hats off. The flag is passing by. So this poem is really talking about the how we should show reverence to our flag, that we should honor our flag as it walks by. Does that mean we should worship our flag? No, we worship Christ, but the flag is a symbol of America, and not just America, but the people that fought and are still fighting, people that served and are still serving, people that died, the ones we read about in history to make this country great. So when we acknowledge our own flag and we show reverence to our flag, we are acknowledging those people who serve and those people who have given their life for our country. And so that's something that every American should do. Every American should be proud of our country and our flag, and I hope you are too. And that's what this poem is all about. Well, take out your grammar book and turn to page 217 in your grammar book. This is recognizing pronouns or prepositions 1. Now, y'all know that we've worked with prepositions and prepositional phrases for months and months as we talked about phrases and clauses and what type of phrases and clauses they were. Well, now we're going to look at actually just the prepositional phrase one more time. And so this should be kind of a review for everybody, so it shouldn't be difficult for you. So look at page 217, look at number 1. A preposition is a word that shows how a noun or pronoun is related to some other word or sentence. So highlight, if you get your highlighters or your pencils out and highlight that word preposition, and then shows how a noun or pronoun is related to another word in the sentence. So let's look at these sentences. Emma ran by the chair. Emma jumped off the chair. Emma sat on the chair. Emma hid underneath the chair. Emma went around the chair, and Emma stood beside the chair. The prepositions by, on, around, off, underneath, and beside show how Emma is related to the noun chair. And so, as we've talked about before, remember many of the prepositions are position words: on, around, beneath, below. Just about anything that a frog can do on a log is a preposition. A frog can sit on the log, it can go off the log, it can go under the log, it can go on top of the log, it can go inside the log, it can go over the log, it can go past the log, and on and on and on. So many of your preposition words are just position words. But then there are also, there's a list here on your page, frequently used prepositions. Y'all can read those, but it would be really good for you to study those. Those are ones that you're going to see frequently in the sentences and in the exercises that you're going to be looking for. So this chart is something you really need to study. Well, look at the next part underneath that chart. Some prepositions are compound. They consist of more than one word, but they should be considered as one part of speech. So look at these. Remember how we talked about our signal words for some of the clauses and phrases, and we had words that were more than one word? Well, it's the same with prepositions. So you have according to, by the way of, in spite of, out of, as for, except for, instead of, regardless of, because of, in front of, on account of, and with regards to. Those are all compound prepositions. So when you look for those and it tells you to circle the preposition, you would consider all of those words, according to, as one word. So you would just put one circle. You wouldn't circle according and circle to. You would just circle according to. The same thing with all of the rest of these. Well, look at number 2. A prepositional phrase consists of a preposition, its noun or pronoun object, and any modifiers. So look at your sentence. The waves crashed against the rocks. Against is your preposition and rocks is the object of your preposition. And then you've got the rocks, which describe which ones. That's an adjective. Which rocks? The rocks. Rocks is the object of the preposition against. Right, number 3, the object of a preposition is the noun or pronoun that completes a prepositional phrase. A preposition must always have an object. So when you're looking for the prepositional phrase, it's going to begin with your preposition and then it's going to end with the object. It's going to be at the end of the prepositional phrase and it's going to be either a noun or a pronoun. So look for that and you'll find the object of your preposition. Here's your example. The dog raced across the meadow. Across is your preposition and meadow is the object of the preposition across. Number 4, a preposition may have a compound object. Just like we can have compound subjects and compound verbs, you can also have a compound object of your preposition. So that would be 2 or more. So this example is, we went to the bank and the store. So you've got your preposition to. Your whole phrase is to the bank and the store. So bank is one of the objects and store is another. You went where? To the bank, and you went where? To the store. So bank and store are both the objects of the preposition. That's a compound one. So you might want to put a big star by number 4 so that you know that sometimes there's more than one. All right, flip the page to page 218 and let's look at exercise A. It says circle all the prepositions. So you know how we do this with directions to make sure you do it right. Circle the word preposition in these directions. Consider compound prepositions as one expression, just like I already told you. So look at exercise A, number 1. For over 300 years, the Romanov family were the rulers of Russia. This would be the beginning word for over 300 years. That's a prepositional phrase. So your preposition is for and it should be circled. And then you have of Russia. Of Russia is your prepositional phrase and of is your preposition. So of should be circled. Now let's do one more before you do some on your own. The last rulers of the Romanov family were Tsar Nicholas II and his wife Tsarina Alexandra. In this sentence, there's a prepositional phrase, of the Romanov family, and so your preposition is of, and that's what you're going to circle. One more, because we have a compound one in the next one. Number 3, along with the Tsar and his wife, the imperial family included 5 children, Olga, Tatiana, Maria, Anastasia, and Alexei. So what would you circle in this? Along with, because your phrase is along with the Tsar and his wife. So you circled the 2 words along with, but only in one circle. Now, I want you to pause this, and I want you to complete 4 through 13 of this exercise. All right, let's look at 4 through 13. Because of her laughter and good spirits with her family, friends, and servants, Grand Duchess Anastasia was loved by all. The first preposition here is because of. And the next one, with her family, friends, and servants. And then the last one, by all. Number 5, Anastasia was known for playing tricks on her older sister and the servants, but she laughed when they played tricks on her. So your first preposition is for playing tricks. Your next one, on her older sisters and the servants. That's your phrase. So on should be circled. And in the last line, on her is your prepositional phrase, so on should be circled. Number 6, While Anastasia was still a teenager, the Bolshevik Revolution swept through Russia. Through is your preposition. Through Russia is the phrase. Number 7, the Bolsheviks demanded the Tsar abdicate his throne and move from the palace in St. Petersburg to a smaller place in the town of Tolsk. There are lots of prepositions in this sentence. So the first one, from the palace, is your first prepositional phrase. So from should be circled. Your second prepositional phrase is in St. Petersburg. So in should be circled. Then you have to a smaller palace. That word to is your preposition, so it should be circled. And then you have in the town. That preposition is in. And then you have of Tolsk. So of should be circled. There are lots of them in number 7. Number 8, the royal family was held under house arrest. Under is your preposition, so it should be circled. Your prepositional phrase is under house arrest. Number 9, finally they were moved from the small palace to the small cramped house surrounded by 2 large fences in the village of Ekaterinburg in Siberia. Lots of prepositional phrases there. So we're looking for these words that begin, that are on our prepositional list. So let's look at the first one. From the small palace is your prepositional phrase, so from should be circled. The second one, to a small cramped house, that would be your second prepositional phrase. So to should be circled. And then you've got by 2 large fences. By is your preposition, so it should be circled. In the village, in is your preposition, so in should be circled. Of Ekaterinburg, that word of is your preposition. And the last one, in Siberia, in is a prepositional phrase. So just because you find 1 or 2, don't stop. Keep looking and see if you have more prepositional phrases. Number 10, under orders from the communist leaders, the royal family was executed. Under orders is your first prepositional phrase, so under should be circled. From the communist leaders is another prepositional phrase, so from should be circled. Number 11, almost immediately rumors spread that Anastasia had escaped during the chaos with the help of a sympathetic guard. During is your first preposition. During the chaos is your prepositional phrase. With the help is your next one. So with should be circled. And then your last one, of a sympathetic guard. Of should be circled. Number 12, rumors said that she had fled to Europe or America under a new name. To Europe is your first prepositional phrase. So to should be circled. And under a new name is the last one. Under should be circled. That's your preposition. Number 13, 70 years later, the terrible fate of the young princess and her family was confirmed. Of the young princess and her family is your prepositional phrase, so you should have of circled. And I hope you did well on that. Let's look at exercise B. Again, you're going to see more than one direction, so remember how I've taught you to do to the directions what it tells you to do to the exercise. So it says number 1, underline the prepositional phrases. So on those words, prepositional phrases in the directions, underline that, prepositional phrases. Circle the prepositions. Find the word prepositions in the directions and circle that for number 2. And then the last one, draw a box around the objects of the prepositions. So you should put a box around the words objects of the preposition. So you're going to do 3 things. You're going to underline the whole phrase, you're going to circle the preposition, and you're going to put a box around the object of the preposition. So let's look at number 1. The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Psalm 27:1. Of my life is your prepositional phrase. So what's the preposition? Right, of. And the object of your preposition would be life. So you should have of circled and life should have a box around it. The next one, of whom, is a prepositional phrase. So you should have of circled and whom would have a box around it. And then the whole of whom should have an underline. Okay? Now let's do number 2 together. Oh, give thanks unto the Lord and call upon his name. Unto the Lord is your first prepositional phrase, so that should be underlined. Your preposition is unto, so it should be circled. Lord is your object, so that should be in a box. And your next one, upon his name. Upon is your preposition, so it should be circled. Upon his name should be underlined, and you should have a box around name. All right. I want you to do exercises 3 through 10 on your own. And when you finish, hit pause now. And when you finish, start it again, and we'll go over the